Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Who is Who in America on Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. We are very fortunate to have with us in Alhikmat studio Mr. Greg Brown. Welcome to the show, Mr. Greg.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on your show. I'm very pleased to be here.
Good. So stay tuned as we talk to Mr. Greg. He has a very interesting personality and background. He is the president and CEO of Home Helpers of South Florida. Right?
That's correct.
Correct. Plus, he has over 30 years of experience with home care and hospital services. So when we talk to the man Brown himself, as we say, he will share with us his experience. He comes from all the way Chicago and his home health care background and experience in Chicago. We will talk to him about his present activities with home health care, etc., and the services he offers to the community. So stay tuned as we continue this conversation with Greg Brown.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Good. It's always a pleasure, and it's nice meeting you, and it's I'm sure this is going to be very beneficial to our viewers worldwide because America got people from all over the world.
That's correct.
And somebody will have some family or relative in America, or especially in Florida, South Florida, where you can come into some form of assistance to them when they listen to what you have to say on this show of your services to people. All right?
That's great. That's what we're trying to do, help people.
Get going. So before we get into your present Home Helpers of South Florida organization and services, tell us a little bit about your background, where you came from, your experience in Chicago, etc.
Be happy to do that. I've had over 30 plus years experience in healthcare in different areas of hospitals, selling clinical systems, selling analytical systems, helping hospitals understand how payment reimbursement has changed from fee for service to value, positive outcomes that can be measured. And before that, I worked in hospitals, but I also worked in long-term care and skilled nursing and assisted living facilities, helping them build EMR systems, clinical systems that were all integrated and being tied into the billing. And so when a caregiver came in, everything was at the bedside of the patient, and they could really service that patient properly. And then when the pandemic hit, I sat back at home and said, what do I want to do?
So where was this, in Chicago?
This was in Chicago.
Right.
Well, I sold all over the United States.
Okay.
I traveled all over. I worked at the big hospitals, the big skilled nursing facilities, to the very small community hospitals, and the mom and pop skilled nursing facilities. But it's throughout the whole United States. I traveled all over.
Oh, that is interesting. And you said that you provided some sort of technological services or equipment to hospitals?
Software and hardware to hospitals to help them with their billing, their revenue cycle, and what they need to do, and also with the clinical pieces, medication, disbursements, how are they measuring clinical, and if something needed to be done to make sure that everything was completed, so that patient experience was completed, and everything that the doctor needed to do or the nurse needed to do was being measured and being done, so that we were helping patient care.
That is interesting. And the other area of your home healthcare services, not home, right?
But home care, hospital care, and working in both areas. So I kind of switched back and forth into different companies.
Oh, that is interesting. And what made you come to Florida now?
Well, interesting question. After the pandemic hit, I spent 3 weeks traveling through South Africa and Israel and Egypt, and came home, and a week later, the whole world shut down.
Right.
And I thought, oh my God, what do I want to do? I'm getting ready to retire. And do I want to stay in Chicago? Do I want to go back to corporate America? What do I want to do? So I did a lot of research, and I've come to South Florida most of my life and know that there's a population of elderly people here.
Right.
And thought, what a great thing to do to help service the elderly population, help them age in their home, and help them age with dignity, and caregivers who are compassionate to the individual, and giving them the care that they need.
Right.
So I researched it and started, bought a franchise, researched all the franchise, because I wasn't sure of all the technology and didn't want to put all that research into it. And Home Helpers came up as the top 2 franchises in the industry. So I looked at both of them, and I chose to move forward with Home Helpers, and opened up a home health care services agency from really the Oakland Park all the way to northern Miami as a service, the areas I'm servicing.
Right. Now, for viewers who are probably viewing this program, well, not really probably, viewers view this program throughout the world, and they may not necessarily be aware of what is really home health care. Because this is a very interesting area, and especially in some cultures and some religious beliefs, as we would say, a lot of people are not into sending their elderly ones, uncles, aunts, parents, etc., to institutions where they're taken care of there because of certain cultural background and religious reasons. They are more inclined to keeping their parents and elders at home. So tell us how this works.
Well, let me see if I understand the question so I answer it correctly. Home care basically is defined as helping an elderly person age at home, and then giving the children or the caregivers help in caring for their parent, so that they can take a break, they can go do the errands that they need to do, or they can have somebody in the house to help them that has experience with dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, and help them provide that care and give their parent or their loved one the best care that they can have, and help them age gracefully in home. So what does a caregiver do? A caregiver can do many different things. And it basically starts out with what I do is an assessment, and that assessment is getting to know the family, getting to know the care, understanding the family culture and values, and how they want their parent to be aged, and then putting together what I call a care plan. And that care plan could be, we're going to bathe the loved one, we're going to help groom them, we're going to assist with breakfast, assist with lunch, take them for a walk, or maybe the children who are caring for the parents work, so we need to take the person we're caring for to the doctor. I work with a couple of older ladies who are 96 and 97, and the caregiver, one of the care plans is they love going to the grocery store. They just love walking through the grocery store. They've done that their whole life. So twice a week, they take that person that they're caring for and take them to Publix, and they spend about an hour in Publix, and it helps them get out. It helps them feel important, and they shop, they read the labels, and they don't want to go back home.
That is interesting. This has always been a question, especially in the Muslim community, maybe in the Orthodox Jewish community. I don't know. You have to tell me about that a little bit on the Jewish aspect. But the question of putting your parents in an old age home, if I want to call it that, because that's what we call it, a senior facility.
They're called senior nursing, skilled nursing facilities, assisted living facilities, and SNFs and CCRCs.
Assisted living
Yes.
facilities, yeah. So share with us a little bit, because some people think it's very modern, it's very sophisticated to put the elderly in a senior assisted facility, right? Which in other countries it's very simple. They call it an old age home. But we get a little bit sophisticated in America and we call it a senior facility or assisted living facilities. Well, whatever it may be, it's the same thing. Putting the parents and the elderly in some facility that they'll be taken care of, which got its advantages and disadvantages. But a man like you with 30 years of experience in this healthcare and now with this home healthcare services and helping people at home, could you share with us some of the benefits
Right.
of having helpers? And this is right up your alley. This is who you are. Having helpers come at home and help the elderly as opposed to putting them in another facility, senior, assisted facility or whatever we call it.
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah, I really wanted to know that because this is a big scenario in many cultures.
Correct. Home health care, one of their peer benefits is one-on-one care. Okay, the person that we're caring for is there. You have a caregiver dedicated to that person in your home and helping that person. So it's one-on-one care. So that's a huge benefit, and that person builds that relationship with the person that they're caring for, and they get to know them. And a lot of times, if they're late or they need a day off, that person gets very upset because they're looking forward to them. When you go into, and there's different levels of skilled care, depending on how much money you have. I mean, there's ones that are facilities that are $10,000 and $20,000 that have wonderful care, but not many people can afford those facilities. And then there's facilities that are Medicare and Medicaid, which are the lower end facilities, which do not have a lot of people to care for them. So the patient, in that respect, isn't getting the care, the one-on-one care. They may have 2 or 3 caregivers for a whole floor of 10 or 12 people. So it's very difficult to provide that one-on-one care that we provide to somebody at home.
So you know what? We have already been talking for 12, 14, 15 minutes now.
Feels like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it really feels. And I want to continue this conversation and this topic because when we come back after the short break.
Okay.
And the reason for that is you mentioned there are facilities that can cost up to $10,000, $20,000. Are you talking about a month?
A month.
A month. 10 to 20,000 US dollars a month to care for an elderly person. But it doesn't matter. That money, does it cover the children being able to live on that facility with their parents? I don't know. So when we come back, the point I'm getting at here,
Right. I know where you're going,
Greg, is listen, you're spending all that money. You got all these people to take care of you. But what about the love and the affection from your dear and near ones, your children, your siblings, you know what I'm saying? That when you're home, there is a whole different connection and bond with these people. So when we come back, we want to talk about this. This is a little challenging because this is the society that we live in too. And we need to understand it well. And we want our viewers out there to properly understand what they're doing and what kind of decision to make when that time comes. So stay tuned. When we come back, we want to continue this conversation. Very, very interesting conversation. A topic that will affect each and every one in the world with their loved ones, near ones, parents, when they reach that elderly stage in life. Sometimes it's very trying what kind of decision to make. So stay tuned. When we come back, we'll talk to Greg about that. the man with the experience, 30 years of experience in healthcare, and this is his business now in providing helpers to care for people at home. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Allah gives hikmat, wisdom, to whomsoever He wills. And whomsoever is given wisdom is certainly given a lot of good. Only the people of understanding will benefit from the reminder. Tune in to Alhikmat TV for khutbahs, lectures, and Islamic reminders. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
In the Quran, in chapter 5, verse 67, Allah tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ya ayyuhar Rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik, wa illam taf'al, fama balagta risalatahu. Very deep. Allah tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to spread the message of the Quran. And He told the Prophet, and if you do not spread the message, you did not fulfill the mission of the messenger. So you and I are followers of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If we can afford one Quran, help us join in distributing the Quran. So if you can't afford one Quran, do it. $3. 10 Quran, $30. 100 Quran, $300.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Who is Who in America on Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. We are very fortunate to have with us in Alhikmat studio Mr. Greg Brown, who has 30 years of experience with with healthcare to be exact.
Correct.
And we are talking to him right now about helping people at home. And his home health care services that he has established here in South Florida. So stay tuned as we continue this conversation with him.
Thank you.
So when we ended the first segment, we were at this point on people charging big sum of money to put the elderly in a facility. But how does that facilitate the loved ones, the children, the near and dear ones, that person, siblings maybe, they will have siblings at the same age. How do they get to keep that love connection?
Well, it's a difficult decision to put your parent into a facility versus keeping them at home or having them move in with you or you move into their home. And some parents want to go into a facility and not consider themselves a burden on their children.
Oh, that's another point. We got to remember that some parents, they deliberately want to go.
Right. Myself, when my parents died very young of cancer, and I took care of them. My family members took care of them. We were there to provide care to them, not wanting them to go to someplace else, so that they could be in their surroundings. They could be at home. They could be with their loved ones, and they really could get personal care. We did bring in a caregiver full-time to help us with things, kind of some of the things that my agency would do with the light housekeeping, some of the cooking, helping with laundry, administering medications, so that we could spend time with our loved ones and with our parents before they passed on. And then my grandmother, who had Alzheimer's, very, very, very bad, we thought about taking her into and putting her into an assisted living, but every time we took her there, she got more confused and more irritated and more agitated because she didn't know where she was at.
Oh.
So we kept her at home, and we brought in a caregiver because she knew where the toilet was, she knew where the kitchen was, she knew where her favorite food was. She had lived in that house for 70 years. So everything was familiar to her. So sometimes taking people out of areas that are very familiar to them and putting them into areas that they don't know is actually worse for them. So we provided in-home care services for them, and they got to know that person. That person came into their home, helped them, made sure that they were safe, and then we'd check in.
So but basically you're saying that it could, unless a person really wants to go in an assisted facility, other cases, it can worsen their mental
Correct.
status in being in a foreign territory,
Correct.
away from what they are familiar with.
Correct. And in other cases, you may have couples who are very coherent, very together, going into an assisted living facility because they can play cards, they can be with their peers, they can travel, they can do things, but they may not have Alzheimer's or dementia, and they may be put into a place where it's very healthy for them.
And for them, it's fun. It's a
them,
lot
it's
of fun.
fun.
It's like
It's-
hanging out.
Right, it's with their peers, their community, and they do things. The Masons has an incredible long-term care facility, and they know each other, and they have fun. They play cards, they play pool, they go on walks. They're with their friends.
So bottom line, different strokes for different folks.
Basically, yes.
Yes, to a point. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I suppose that will be the minimal. The majority of people
Right.
would want to be home and stay at home with their loved ones. A
Correct.
little bit in the first segment, I wanted to ask you, in the Muslim Islamic beliefs, we are very much into, not that it's not permitted in cases of whatever, necessity, medical, whatever, it's permitted to put people in assisted living facilities, as we would call it. But it's generally recommended and considered more blessing to have your parents with you at home. In the Orthodox Jewish belief, is it the same thing?
It is the same thing, but what we have to understand and what we have to look at is we need to take care of our parents, but you also need a break in between. You still need to take care of your family. You still need to take care of your home. You may still need to go to work to support the family. And in this case, unfortunately, a lot of people, both the male and the female, have to work, the husband and the wife. So to support the family, so you may need somebody to come in for a couple hours a day to make sure everything's okay, or 4 or 5 hours to sit with them and then help the family cook dinner, do some laundry, make sure the house is picked up, so that when they come home, they can spend the time with their loved one, whether it be their mother or their father, and pay attention to them and provide the care that they need. But somebody that's aging, with Alzheimer's or dementia, needs a lot of care.
And sometimes the children may not have the ability and the capability to care for their parents.
That's just where I was going to go next. Thank you for taking me down that path.
Okay.
So the caregivers that I hire have different certifications, and that one would be Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, CPA, level 2 background checks to make sure that they are healthy people and whole people. And so all of these and an HHA, a CNA, a certified nursing assistant, a home health care assistant. So these certifications make sure that they have the qualifications to take care of the patient, kind of like a nurse would have, an RN or a registered nurse or an MD or a doctor. And they have that book training, and then they have the on-site training to provide the best care.
Well, you know what? This is the area that we want to really get into details with. If someone basically needs that person at home, we want to get into the next segment when we come back and after the short break. But we got a few minutes for this second segment. But we want to go in details in the third segment as to how do people go about doing this? How do they contact you? What do they need to know? The whole 9 yards before they can get your services and your assistance or your company, whatever, to provide this home health care service for them. But before we get into that, how they get that, in the next 2-3 minutes, at what stage do you recommend someone looking for your kind of services? What signs, what stage?
Any signs of risk, whether it be forgetfulness, wandering, falling, repeating themselves. Any sign that shows that they may be at risk is a good time to look at an agency and look at what type of care they may need and what type of assessment needs to be done to assess that care and provide the right care to the loved one. So it should be an early on understanding.
So there is no age limit with that?
No, there's no age limit at all. Some people could get dementia in their 40s and 50s.
Interesting. Yeah. Now, what about insurance coverage? How that works with your services?
Well, private insurance doesn't cover home care, unfortunately, and we're working in Washington to change those laws and regulations and help them understand the value of that. But a lot of people have long-term care insurance.
So what's the difference? Private insurance and long-term health?
Long-term health care insurance says I'm going to pay for in-home care. And the policy you bought, you can work with your insurance agent. The policy you bought, it typically pays for a certain amount. And they come in and do an assessment. They make sure that the patient needs the care, and they sign off on it. And then an agency like myself, I do the billing. I provide the billing to the insurance company, so that the family doesn't even have to try and collect the billing, because that could be a chore in itself. It requires a full-time person in the office just to follow up on insurance companies and making sure that they're getting the information that they need.
So in the layman language, Medicaid, Medicare,
Does not pay for
Obamacare,
it.
do they cover your agency?
No, they do not. They cover nursing homes, but they do not cover home health care yet, and that's something we're working on. So you have the long-term care insurance, and you have what we call private pay. So the family has to pay for that out of pocket.
Privately.
Privately.
Good.
Whether it be the parents or the children who pay for that.
That's interesting. That's interesting. And does that come out, do you get that deducted from IRS?
I don't know the answer to that question. I would think not, but I don't know. I could find that out.
Because it's an expense. It's an expense.
It's an expense, but it's kind of like daycare for adults that we have for children. And I think they took that deduction away years ago. I don't know. I can check on that. So I don't know. But it could be that you are the primary caregiver, so you could have a deduction on your taxes for that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, when we come back, we'll continue this conversation with Greg Brown, who is the president and CEO of Home Helpers of South Florida. We're going to get more into the details as to when someone wants to use his services and his agency services, what are the steps and how they go about doing that. So stay tuned. When we come back, we'll continue that conversation, inshallah, God willing.
Assalamu alaikum. Allah gives hikmat, wisdom, to whomsoever He wills. And whomsoever is given wisdom is certainly given a lot of good. Only the people of understanding will benefit from the reminder. Tune in to alhikmattv for khutbahs, lectures, and Islamic reminders. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
In the Quran, in chapter 5, verse 67, Allah tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ya ayyuhar Rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik, wa illam taf'al, fama balagta risalatahu. Very deep. Allah tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to spread the message of the Quran. And he told the Prophet, and if you do not spread the message, you did not fulfill the mission of the messenger. So you and I are followers of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If we can afford one Quran, help us join in distributing the Quran. So if you can't afford one Quran, do it. $3. 10 Quran, $30. 100 Quran, $300.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Who is Who in America on Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. For those of you who have just tuned in, we have been talking to Greg Brown, who is the president and CEO of Home Helpers of South Florida. So we're about to talk to him more with some more details on how do we go about using his facilities to help our parents who have reached an old age and they need this kind of assistance.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Gregson, the question
Yes.
I have first is, I know you mentioned this in the beginning, but for some of our viewers who would have just tuned in, and you know how it is, what exactly your agency provide for someone at home?
There is a multitude of services that we provide at home, companion care being one of them. 24-hour monitoring, meals and nutrition, light housekeeping, laundry, medication, transportation to and from doctors or physical therapy, or any services that the client needs that the family can't provide, or the individual living alone. I am working with a gentleman in Pembroke Pines who is in his 90s and he's an author. He writes books. He's published all the time. Very smart man, still writing, but he can't take the books down, get them to the binder or to the printer, bring them back and mail them out. So the caregiver helps that gentleman with that, while also making sure that he is safe, eating, not working all the time because he's a workaholic, and then making sure that he stays focused on what he needs to stay focused and he's safe and healthy, and taking him to the grocery store because he's fallen a couple times down the stairs.
Wow.
So we're helping him with that. So it's very tailored to the client's needs and what the client wants. This man lives alone, no family. His daughter and son are in Manhattan, and he's down here by himself. But if you talk to him, I mean, he's got everything. He's incredibly smart, and he writes books on morals and values and ethics.
Wow, that's interesting. So that will tell us that the cost will vary. So what kind of costs do we look at generally? I definitely agree that if different things on different package will be tailored according to the needs of the person, it definitely would mean that the cost will be different. But on an average, how do they go about, what's the average cost? Well, just on a general thing.
Great question. There's different types of agencies. There's agencies like I am, who I provide all the insurance. I provide all the taxes that need to be paid. I provide everything to my caregivers. And then there's another one called the registry, which the individual is responsible for that, who's providing the care. And if they can't pay for it, then the client may become responsible. So I provide all that to my caregivers as a benefit. And I provide that as a benefit to my client, so that if something would happen in the house, I pay for it. They fall, my caregiver falls or gets hurt, it relies on my insurance and my workers' comp. So those prices vary. Depending on the care, you could be anywhere today, and a lot of it depends on minimum wage. Minimum wage is going up to $15 an hour. Minimum wage is going up to $12 an hour. So you can't charge somebody $17 and $18 an hour. Typically, you are anywhere between $22 to $30 an hour on the level of care you need. Sometimes you may need a male caregiver because you have to lift somebody heavy out of bed for toiletry and transfer and showering, and that requires a different level of care.
Right. That is. What about your helpers? Do they live in also?
Some do, most do not. I do have some people that have 24-hour care, and what I typically try to do is have 3 caregivers, 8 hours a day, because they have families too.
Yes. So you
And
rotate the caregivers.
We rotate the caregivers. They go home. Some caregivers want to work night shifts. I have a lot of college students who are in nursing or medical school that want to work at night so they can study while the client is sleeping.
So they can make some money on the side
Exactly.
and still keep their profession and career going.
Correct.
Wow, that is incredible. I must say that's very smart.
Very smart. So it all depends, but you can be anywhere in that range, and then you want to make sure that they have the certifications, that you see those certifications, that they know what they're doing and they can provide the right level of care. Dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's are very specific care that's needed.
So your caregivers are all qualified, certified people.
Correct.
Excellent. What are some of the questions someone want to use your facility? What are some of the questions they need to ask you before they hire your agency?
Now, are you an agency or are you a registry? Who becomes responsible, as we talked about a few minutes ago? Do the caregivers have the right certifications? Do they have a level 2 background check? If you hire somebody off the street through an ad in the paper and they steal from you, and that happens a lot, who becomes responsibility? Whose responsibility is it? If you hired somebody off the street, you're out. If you hire an agency, we are responsible for that. But more importantly, you want to make sure that they have the right certifications. You want to make sure that they have the right training. You want to make sure that you're working with an agency that is very reputable and cares and has the right mission and the right values in place to provide the right care to your loved ones. I mean, this is what I tell all of my caregivers when I hire them. Listen, you're working with a population that is very vulnerable. They need to be protected. They need to be cherished. And they deserve to have that. If you can't provide that care to them, you're in the wrong agency, because that's how I feel about it.
Right, and you made a good point. A lot of people may try to get someone off the street.
Correct.
They just heard about, somebody just mentioned. They take that person, bring them home. The person is not qualified, not certified, and then something goes wrong, and that's what happens. You pay a few dollars less, but you get more problems.
Right, you get more problems and a less qualified person.
Yes.
Because the aging and even, I mean, we work with the children and adults with disabilities, are vulnerable population of our society. They need to be protected and they need to be cared for properly, and they've earned that. And that's why I really feel about that.
I know you mentioned about the home health agency and the nurse registry. What is really the difference between them?
The registry is just placing people with somebody. They're not employed. So they're going out and finding people, and the registry says, I'll take a certain percentage of your hourly rate, you pay me, but you're on your own. And there's a lot of turnover in those. Where in an agency says, you are employed by the agency. The agency pays your taxes, pays your benefits, pays your insurance, and is responsible for anything that happens in that home. That's a very key point to understand. Are you an agency or are you a registry?
So technically the agency is better.
Technically the agency provides a higher level of insurance and care. Right.
In South Florida, what areas do you cover?
I cover from Oakland, from really right now, Deerfield, down 95 to the ocean, and then 95 over all the way down to Miami-Dade County, and all the way back to the ocean.
So you're technically talking the 3 counties.
Yeah, other than, basically everything.
Yeah, the tri-county, as we say.
Right. Well, no, I'm only Broward County. I'm not licensed in Miami.
Oh.
And I'm not licensed in Palm Beach County. ACA is the agency that licenses you, and they license you by county.
That is interesting. I would never have even thought about that.
Right. And so I'm licensed by ACA. I have a license number, and you can look that up on site. It's on the back of all my cards and all my literature, so that you can read all the reviews online about my agency and anything that I've ever been fined for, which I haven't. But if agencies are fined, or if agencies have been and have bad reviews, you can see it all through the ACA website.
So if someone wants to get in contact with you and use your services, they have listened to the show, they have seen you on this show, they have seen your ads in other places, they heard about your services, now they want to contact, as you say here, Home Helpers of South Florida. How do they go about doing this?
Well, they can Google Home Helpers Home Care of South Broward County, or they can call me. Can I give my number out? My number would be 954-354-2977. They can call me, they can send me an email or my website, or they can send me an email. My email address is gbrown@homehelpershomecare.com. Either way will work. Or they could just Google Home Helpers and call the corporate office, and they would also pass that on to me.
Oh, that is interesting.
So you have a lot of options to get a hold of me.
So they just mention your name, Greg Brown. We saw Greg Brown on Alhikmat TV talk show, and we want to get his agency services, and they mention your name, and the corporate office will simply refer
They'll
that.
pass that information on to me.
Right. Or maybe I can let our viewers know that they can just contact Alhikmat office and say we saw on the show Greg Brown and the Home Helpers Services of South Florida, and how do we get in contact with him, and then we just put them on to you.
That would be wonderful.
Good. And then, of course, they will see your advertisement in the Alhikmat magazine, and that's it. Very easy way to go, yeah?
If you're thinking about it, you should at least start having the initial conversation.
That's another situation. Yeah. Do not wait for whatever. As soon as you see signs.
Don't wait till you're put into a position where you really need the care. Make sure that you have time to review agencies and find the right caregiver for your loved one and for the family.
Very important point. Do not wait for something to happen to decide that you need the home care services. From now, they should start searching and looking or calling people like you, of course.
Correct.
To find out the services that you offer.
Let's be proactive, not reactive.
Yeah. So what else would you like to share with our viewers? We got another 4 to 5 minutes again. What else would you like? Anything you want to share with the viewers of your agency and your services? Something that we did not cover?
We didn't cover a couple things that we offer that I think are important to the family members.
Go ahead, let us know.
And one of the things that we have is called Care For. And Care For allows the home, if somebody can't be there, you're limited in funds and you can't afford 24-hour care, we have monitoring services where we can monitor the loved one. We can put a direct link on it, so if they even are tipping or falling, that an alarm will go off and somebody will call them. And if we don't get a hold of them, we call the family member and we dial 911 right away.
Oh, so even if your caregiver is not there,
right.
You have a monitoring system that can help the situation. Right. All right.
And if they leave the house, we can track them through GPS, and we know where they're going, so we can find them if they have Alzheimer's or dementia, which is very important.
Very high tech. Very
high tech, right? So we can follow them, we can watch them, we can see what they're doing. We also have meal services, so that if the loved one is alone and there isn't a family member, that we can provide meal services to them. And I also offer what's called a talk service, so that if they want somebody to talk to, they have a device in their home and they can say, I want to talk to somebody, and somebody will come online and they'll talk to them and they'll have conversations with them and they'll ask them how they're doing. Did they take their medication? Have they done what they're supposed to be doing what they're supposed to have been done? And they can talk to them as long as they want. And there's no charge for that. So, technology is helping us provide better care to our loved ones. And those are just a few of the services we offer on top of personalized care.
Wow, you have a lot of technological services.
We do, and it's getting better every day with 5G.
Yeah,
It's
with 5G, because based on the conversation, yes, it sounded like it's just about a caregiver personally coming there, but in addition to the physical and personal assistance, you have that technological monitoring system, which is very sophisticated, and that is something we need in today's time.
Right. And something that somebody can have a conversation with. It could be lonely sitting in your house all day long.
Of course, they just getting bored and they want to talk to somebody.
So let's give them that opportunity.
So they can call, you got a service, then they can just call and talk.
Right, it's a little white device that sits and you can hear it from most any room in the house.
Interesting.
So sometimes we'll do call-ins at night and said, are you in bed? Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Are you okay? Just to do a check-in. And those services are all free.
Well, that is interesting. So I'm sure someone listening to this show anywhere in the world, and they got some family member or relative here in Broward County in South Florida, they can tap on these services and benefit from it.
Be happy to talk to anybody that needs help.
Good. Well, it was really a pleasure talking to you. Time just goes, 45 minutes. It has been a pleasure, and I'm sure that our viewers would have benefited a great deal, and somebody somewhere would definitely have a friend, a family who got a near, dear and loved one who is aging and definitely would need these services that you offer. So it has really been a pleasure to have you with us on this show, Who is Who in America, to talk about your services and what you offer to the community. So we give you the last word. What would you like to say in the next couple of seconds?
I want to say thank you. I'm glad I made this choice to help our aging population, and I'm so glad I met you and got to be on your show. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's really a pleasure. And to our viewers out there, it was really a pleasure talking to Greg Brown, the CEO and President of Home Helpers of South Florida. I'm sure you have learned a lot and benefited a lot from the kind of advice and the kind of experience that he has and that he gave and the services that he's offering with his agency. So stay tuned to Alhikmat TV 24/7 online, and of course if you need to get in contact with Greg Brown, you can call us here at Alhikmat office and or Google his company, and it will be easy to get in contact with him and get some questions and answers going to set up whatever facilities and assistance you need for your near and dear one who is aging. Until then, always stay tuned to Alhikmat TV, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.